Of all the anuvakkams, the 11 anuvakkams in Satarudriyam, anuvakkam 3 is kind of a little delicate, and for most people it's not quite difficult, but it's hard to come to terms with what is described in there. So we'll spend some time on this in detail and justify why the anuvakkam 3 is the way it is. And most of what you hear in these lectures is from Skanda Bhashya. What I get my information, because I consider as the most authentic and the most appropriate Bhashyam on Satarudriyam, even though there are quite a few available there. Most of them draw from this. So Skanda Bhashyam, then you have Bhatta Bhaskara, then you have also Shayanacharya. Those are the three main references that when people comment on Satarudriyam, they refer to. So in that, this is a sentence that I took from Skanda Bhashyam as an introduction to anuvakkam 3. This is what the Skanda says. Now, Skanda Bhashyam, as most of you know, when we discussed this at the very beginning of our first anuvakkam, either supposed to have come directly from Lord Shiva himself, taken down by Skanda, Lord Kartikeya. And there is also other school of thought that there was a Rishi, Skanda Deva, who did this. But that doesn't really matter. But this is the most authentic and the most appropriate Bhashyam, and it's in a poetical style. So in that, this is like the keynote point for anuvakkam number 3. So what that says is, Manovakkaya arardhadhyadinatmatva sampadanam namashabdhartah. Completely understanding the meaning of these words, which means all these 300 words that start from anuvakkam number 2, Namo Hiranyabhave, the Trishati, Rudra Trishati. Completely understanding the meaning of these words and surrendering mentally, physically, manovakkaya, and then in terms of words, in terms of prayers, so in terms of words, deeds, and mind, you surrender completely to Lord Shiva and understanding this. That's when the secrets of Satarudriyam reveals itself to you. So that is the keynote from Skanda Bhashyam. Manovakkaya aradhyadinatmatva sampadhana namashabdartah. Absolute surrender to God in thought, speech, and body. Now the Lord is propitiated. So not only there are these names given to us, like I said while discussing anuvakkam 2, the beautiful technology also given to us. So Satarudriyam is such a wonderful treatise, such a wonderful hymn, that in these 300 names, not only we are given a great philosophy, a pinnacle of Advaita Vedanta, in describing the Lord in so many different things. So that is a sublime philosophy of Advaita Vedanta is in these 300 words. Not only that, there is also technology to reach, to realize that oneness, Shivatvam, in these 300 names by adding, the Rishis did a wonderful job by adding that Namaha. That's why it's called Namakkam. So absolute surrender to God in thought, speech, and body. The Lord is propitiated with hundreds of prostration to every one of His innumerable forms. So the key word here again is every one. So when the Rishi says every one of His innumerable forms, the forms are innumerable, whatever you see around you is all His forms. And then it's not that He is only in this or He is only in that, He is not here or He is there. No. Like Thai Manovar said, a great Tamil saint who lived in 17th century, the saint par excellence, absolute Brahmanishta, Thai Manovar, he said, Angingenadapadi Angam Prahasamai Ananda Purtiyai Niraindadiyadu. There is not a place where you can say, oh, he is here, or he is there, or he is not here, he is not there. He is full everywhere. He filled himself with everywhere and upholds his entire cosmos in himself. So that's what Thai Manavar says. The same way, Rudra Rishis also say that to every one of his innumerable forms. So that means that every one of his form does include both good and the bad, the sublime, the satanic, the divine, and the despicable, everything. So every one means that is what it means. So every one of his innumerable form with a clear understanding of his universal aspects. So when you do that, then the job is done. So that is the most important message to understand before we study anuvakkam number 3, because you're really going to get some information in there that might shock you. Oh, Lord Shiva is there also. Yes, he is. So, because you cannot say God is only here and not there. Okay, you can't pick and choose here. So, and also there are some I did a little bit of research, because thanks to these holidays, I also took a couple of days off. So I was able to spend some time studying these third Anuvaka, and I came up with some very, very vital, some important information that I haven't found in any of the commentaries. We'll go through those in a while. This is the one that I was mentioning to you, that Saint Thai Manavar was a great saint. Angin Janadavadi Engam Prahasamai Ananda Purtyahi Arulodu Naraindadu. Divine grace, that is full. Arulodu Naraindadu. Full. Arulodu Purtyahi. Full and bliss and total. Radiant everywhere. Not just here and there. Holding the cosmos in itself by its own volition. Nobody told him to do it. It's by his own desire. Tannurul Velikkulle Agilanda Kodiyallam Tangumbadi Kiche Vaitu Uyirkuirai Talaitadu. He is part and parcel of us. He is in us. He is growing with life, being the life in the life. So Manavakinil Tattamal Nindradadu. That is beyond your mind and words. So you cannot describe him in words, and he is beyond your mind. You can't analyze him with your mind. So that's what Saint Thai Manavar says, and that's reference to Anuvakkam 3. Now, when we started Satarudram introduction, we did mention there are 3 important things. That is, one is that Sarvatmakatvam, that he is in Sarvatma. And then the 3 philosophy. Again, the second one was Sarveshwaratvam, the lordship over everything. And then the third most important thing was Sarva Antaryamitvam. So Sarveshwaratvam, the lordship over everything, is given to us in Satarudriyam in 21 yajus, in 21 verses, starting from number 2. Then we have the yajus there. The riks end with Anuvakkam 1, and then start back in Anuvakkam 2. So these yajus, the prose style, the Sarveswaratvam, his lordship over everything, is given to us in 13 verses, in 13 yajus in second Anuvaka, and in the first 8 verses of the third Anuvaka, his lordship, his mastery over things is given to us. And then even in that Sarveswaratvam, there are 2 categories. So those 2 categories, Dravya Vishayam, Devasyadipatyam. His lordship over things, over creation, items. So Dravya Vishayam, Dravyas, his lordship over Dravya Vishayam. And then the second category of lordship, that given to us in the first 8 Anuvakas, in the first 8 yajus of third Anuvaka. There should be yajus here, not Anuvaka. So the first 8 yajus, or the 8 verses of third Anuvaka, is lordship over Kriya Vishayam. Kriya Vishayam Adipatyam. Adipatyam is lordship. So what that means is that in Anuvaka 2, we already saw that Hiranya Bhagave, Senanye, Dishantapate, you are the Lord of the directions. These are the things. Pashunam Pataye Namaha, Saspinjarai, Trisimate, Pattinam Pataye Namaha. The things are talked about. But then when you come to third, actions, deeds, you have the lordship over this action, this deed, that deed. That's all talked about. And then after that is over, from the ninth verse in Anuvakkam 3, Judges number 9, in the third Anuvakkam. There are totally 17 of them. So from Judges number 9, which is, and for the rest of the entire third Anuvakkam, which is totally 9 Judges, 9 verses, the second part of third Anuvakkam, 9 through 17, till the end of 9th Anuvakkam, where the Rudra Trishati ends. Somebody's microphone is not muted. So till the end of the 9th Anuvakkam, where the Sarva Antaryamitvam, where his immanence, how he permeates and sustains, and how he is the inner presence and the inner order that sustains and the inner presence that guides, is given to us from Judges number 9 in Anuvakkam 3 and until the end of Anuvakkam number 9. So that would constitute a total of 108 verses where his Sarva Antaryamitvam is talked about. So we will go over that real quick. So Dravya Vishaya Devasya Adhipatyam. Dravya Vishaya Devasya Adhipatyam is his lordship over categories of creation, 13 categories of creation. This is in Anuvakkam 2, like we said, the directions. Dishanam Pati, Pashunam Pati, Pattinam Pati, Annanam Pati, Pushtanam Pati, and Jagatam Pati, Kshetranam Pati, Mananam Pati, Vrikshanam Pati, Kakshanam Pati, inaccessible places, and Aushadinam Pati, Pattinam Pati, and Sattvanam Pataye Namaha. That's how it ends. So Anuvakkam number 2 ends with this good ones. He is the Lord of Sattvanam Pataye Namaha. So why it ends with Sattvanam Pataye Namaha? Because the good ones, they end with the good ones, because right in Anuvakkam 3, they are going to talk about all the bad ones. They just used one word, Sattvanam Pati. But when they talk about the bad ones, there are so many bad ones, so they'll list more. Here they don't list the good, they just list the good ones. So that's how Anuvakkam 3 starts, with all the list of the real bad ones. Okay, and these are the list here. The first 8 judges in, so this is where what we call the Kriya Vishayam Adhipatyam, is lordship over deeds, because this is most important. He has to be the Lord of all these people, which means he has to, in some way, Lord of all these people means that he is not a chieftain of the dacoits, he is not the head of the dacoits, and encourages them to do it. When we say the Lord, the meaning has to be understood very clearly here, that he has to be the Lord in order to control them. See, for all the prisoners in the jail, somebody has to be the master, make sure they control them. For all the criminals, somebody has to be the police department, is the Lord of all the criminals. So that is, in that sense, he is the Lord of all these people. It's not that Shiva is the Lord and is a dacoit and rides a horse with them and go and loots people. That's a common misunderstanding when they read this Anuvakkam 3. But please understand that when the rishis describe him as the Lord of all these people, which means he is the one who keeps them under control, but a lot of time they go beyond his control. But then when they do that, and then he is the one who dispenses the justice to them and makes sure they get punished for their deeds. So in that sense, he is the Lord. So that's very important point to understand here, Anuvakkam 3. Otherwise, this will be a very disillusioning Anuvakkam for you. So what are the categories, the Kriya Vishayam that talk about here? Abhyadininam. And he is in charge of all the devatas who hurt and pierce, like when they send the arrows, it hurts. So those kind of, even human beings, when they hurt. So this Abhyadininam, he is the Lord of all those people and the devatas who cause affliction. And then the second one, Stenanam Pati, is all the undercover thieves, the Lord of the undercover thieves. And then Taskaranam Pati, the people who rob openly, who commit crimes very openly. And then Stayunam Pati, there are people who pretending to be your acquaintance that you don't even suspect they could do all these things. Then they do all these things sneakily. So those are the stayunas. And then, of course, then the forest is aranyana. Then the people who steal the grains and the wealth and the crops and everything, they are the mushnatam. And then, of course, they are the most cruel ones, the prakrantana, who kill and carry away wealth at night, and kulunchanam, again, who kidnappers and killers. So these are the most bad ones. So he is a lot of all of them, in a sense that he tries to keep them under control as much as he can, and when they exceed his control, then he punishes them, being the dispenser of justice. Okay, so that is like the overall introduction to Anuvakkam 3. The first 8 yajus in Anuvakkam. The 9th one, like I said, starts with his antaryamitvam. He starts with his immanence in creation, where he is the part of everything. And then after that, this immanence is described in a total of, so Sarva Antaryamitvam, in a total of 108 yajus. So Sarva Antaryamitvam, Sarvatmakaha. So the last 9 in 3, and then the remaining yajus, you can count later on, or you can do your homework also. If you have a Rudram copy, you can start counting them. So the remaining yajus up to end of 9, there was 99, and then there is 9 in the third Anuvakkam, making a total of 108. So from 9th verse in third Anuvakkam, there is a different word used. You know, we call the Ubayato Namaskaras, double Namaskaras. So the special word that is used in the 9th verse, the 9th yajus in third Anuvakkam, is O Namaha. O Namaha means unto you, like as if he is sitting in front of you, as if he is standing in front of you. Before that 9th verse in Anuvakkam 3, it is as if he is somewhere else. Pushtanam Pataye Namaha is as if somewhere sitting up in the cloud. You're sending your namaskaras to him. Oh Lord Shiva, who is in Kailasha, my namaskar to you. But here, the Rishi is addressing him as if he's right in front of you. And the reason is because he is right in front of you in the form of all these beings, in the form of human beings, in the form of animals, in the form of dacoits, in the form of a pebble, in the form of lightning. So that is what follows right from here. So he is right in front of you. So that is why these are more important, because in spirituality, the progress, if you take the life of all the saints, if you read the stories of all the saints and read their verses, this is so obvious, because they all start with first worshipping the deity somewhere outside of them. Like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Kali was somewhere out there, started worshipping her as like a third person. Kali, Namaha, this Namaha, that Namaha. And so was Meera. He started worshipping Krishna as if he was like a third person. And then Bharatiyar, who was a great saint, he did the same thing with the Divine Mother Devi. And then all the saints start worshipping God as if he's somewhere up there. And then a stage comes in the path of spirituality where they see him, kind of realize him right in front of them, in the sense that everything they say is nothing but the Lord. So that realization dawns. So that is God consciousness. God consciousness sense you're conscious of God everywhere. You're conscious of God in the tree. You're aware of the Lord in the bird. You're aware of the Lord in the cat, in the dog, whatever you see in the river, in the mountain, in the elephant. So that is another teaching of Hinduism, that you see God in everything. That's why we worship everything. The villagers worship a tree, no problem there. He worships a rock, no problem there. You worship a river, no problem there. Because that's what we teach ultimately, that there is not only one God, but only God. That's Advaita Vedanta. That one God has become all this. So if the villager asks you, if that's what you're teaching, that one God is everywhere, why can't I worship him in anything that I want? Yes, you can. If he's in the elephant, if he's in the monkey, he's in the rat, so I can worship anything you want. So that is the villager does it out of complete faith. from what we told him, that this is what our religion teaches you. And then eventually, starting from the second grade there, he progresses all the way up to the PhD level. So how does that happen? I usually give this analogy when I do workshops for children or teenagers or even adults about Hinduism, that the most important teaching of Hinduism, ultimate teaching of Hinduism, that there's not only one God, but only God. Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. So everything is that Brahman. That is the Advaita Vedanta, that 4 Mahavakyas. But then the most important thing is here that Adi Shankara, who advocated Advaita Vedanta, like he drummed Advaita Vedanta, like Dindima. Dindima means the drumming Advaita Vedanta. When he went to his guru for the first time, when he asked him, who are you? He didn't say that Aham Brahmasmi. He didn't say that. But most of you know what he said. Mano buddhyahankara chittani naham Chidananda Rupam Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupam Shivoham Shivoham. So if that is what he said, Shivoham, how come that he later said Aham Brahmasmi? The Shankara was a very practical saint. He was an incarnation of Lord Shiva. And what do you mean by practical? Because the purpose of his incarnation was to unite Hindus. There were so many problems there, infighting. The Karma Kandis were there, then the Jnana Kandis were there, then people were going through the rituals like crazy they were going through to the letter of the rituals, forgetting the spirit of the Vedas. So it's like throwing the baby with the bathwater. So the purpose of these teachings, the purpose of the Vedas was lost in getting engrossed with the rituals. In other words, you lose the forest in counting the trees. That's what happened. And there were so many sects. So Shankara's point was to unite all of them, because there was the Shatdharma, that we call him, that he was a Shanmata Stapaka, which means there were the 6 sects at that point of time. And the sects were the Ganapatyam, people who were worshipping Ganesha. Then there is Kaumaram, people who were worshipping Kumaraswamy, Lord Kartikeya. Then there is Sauram, people who worshipped Lord Sun, mostly from the part of the Gujarat area. That's why it's called Saurashtram. And then the Ganapatyam is mostly the Maharashtrian area. Kaumaram is mostly in the south, particularly Tamil Nadu, where Kumaraswamy worship was prevalent. And then Shaktam was mostly in West Bengal and Kerala, in those areas there, predominantly in those areas, was worshipping Divine Mother. And then, of course, Vaishnavam and Shaivism. Shaivism being predominant in Kashmir, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka, Veerashaivism. Saiva Siddhantam in Tamil Nadu, and Kashmir Shaivism up in Kashmir. And, of course, Vaishnavism pretty much all over. So his purpose was to unite that. So if he only said that I'm Shivoham, he would have been in a lot of trouble. So that is why he had to cloak that under Advaita Vedanta, Aham Brahmasmi, because ultimately in many places you would see that Shiva is the ultimate reality. Shiva is number one reality out of which everything else is created. Nataraja is the ultimate reality. And Nataraja is the one that creates with his Damaru. And that's why even today in CERN, Central European Nuclear Research Institute in Switzerland, where you have PhDs in physics and all those electronics guys, and some of them are even Nobel laureates, those guys have right at the entrance to this highest scientific institution in the world, they have the statue of Nataraja. Anyway, that is some other topic. We'll pick it up sometime. So, the second stage in spirituality is you're progressing from a God being the third person, being addressed in third person, to God being addressed as the second person, because He's in front of you. You're seeing all this. And then to give you a very solid example, that in Tamil, this Bharatiya says that Kaakai siraginile nandalala undan kariyaniram தோன்றுதடா நந்தலாலா காக்கை சிறகினிலே நந்தலாலாம் பார்க்கும் மரங்கள் எல்லாம் நந்தலாலா பார்க்கும் மரங்கள் எல்லாம் நந்தலாலா உந்தன் பச்சை நிறம் தோன்றுதடா நந்தலாலா காக்கை சிறகினிலே நந்தலாலா. What it means is that, oh Nandalal, I see you in the wings of the crow. I see you, and then when I see the trees, I see your green color in the trees. Parkum marangal ellam, all the trees that I see your green. And then so everywhere he sees Nandalala. So it means now he is in front of him. He's in second person. Parkum marangal ellam undan paccha niram thondrudara Nandalala. So, and then eventually he progresses. Later down the line, he also writes this, that காக்கை குருவி எங்களினம் கடலும் மலையும் எங்கள் ஜாதி பார்க்கும் இடமெல்லாம் யாமின்றி வேறில்லை பார்க்க 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 களியாட்டம் நோக்க நோக்க களியாட்டம், something like that he says. So what that means is that the birds and the trees and the rocks and the oceans, they're all my own. Engalinam, they're all us, they're all us, they're all part of us. We are all the same category, we are all the same clan. And then wherever I see, I don't see anything but myself. So here he has come to the third stage being what you call the unity consciousness. So in other words, there is no more dichotomy. So this is everywhere, whether it's in the south or north. In the north, we have a classic example of Mirabai, who says, Lali dekana maigai, jitta dekun titalala. I knew Krishna was there as a third person somewhere, but when I set out to look for him, jitta dekun titalala, wherever I saw Lord Krishna only. Lali dekana maigai, jitta dekun titalala, Lali mere lalakin main bhi ho gayi lal. So that was the third stage where she says, wherever I saw Krishna. So that is still the dichotomy there, she and the Krishna. There are the two persons, the observed and the observer, the knower and the known, the seen and the seer. So there's a dichotomy. But then when she said, Jita dekun tilal lali mere lal ki main bhi ho gayi lal, which means that, oh, I became that Lord Krishna. I became one with him, which means there is no more dichotomy. There is no more difference between the seer and the seen. There is no more difference between the knower and the known. No more difference between the observer and the observed. So what you call in the parlance of Advaita Vedanta or in spirituality is called the Triputi. Jnata, Jnay, Jnyan. The knower, known, in the process of knowing, all becoming one. So that is that oneness. That is advocated in Satarudriyam, you would see. So you would see these are the mystical meanings that you have to elicit. You just don't go by what the superficial words means. You have to look at the entire thread. You have to look at the entire flow of Rudram, how it flows. So right by 9th Anuvakkam, the Rishi is already seeing Lord in front of him. And then by the end of Namakam, when we go to Chamakam, there is no more difference. There is no more dichotomy of seeing Lord here and there. And again, my take on Tamakam is not that, well, on one level it is a prayer. You are asking Lord for this and that. Okay. Agam suchame rasmichame da'abhyachame adipadichame upagam suchame antarhyamachame indravayavachame. Give me this, give me that. But that is on one level, it's true. But what I learned from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, when we were discussing that, he would interpret it on a totally different level of Advaita Vedanta. How he did Agna Vishnu Sajosa Sema Vardantu Bhangyaraha Dimnairvaje Viragatam Vajachame Prasavachame Prayatichame Prasitichame. He says, when the Rishi says that my, he says, is one level it's a prayer asking for this, but on a second level, on a more mystical level, what it is that the Rishi is describing that unity consciousness, that I am this, ye bhi mai hu, wo bhi mai hu, gehu bhi mai hu, masur dal bhi mai hu, I am this, I am that, everything is me. I am even the ladle that you use in the oven. I am the ghee that you use in the oven. I am this, I am that. So in that chamakam, there is not one thing that is left out where it is not the Lord, where the presence of oneness is not realized. So if you look at the entire flow, right from in verse number 9, the second person start like you are seeing God in front of you, and until the end of the 9th anuvakkam, this flow continues, that you are saying, the Rishi is saying in lightning, in thunder, Medhya cha vidhitya cha idriyaya cha tapya cha vakya cha reshmiya cha vastavjaya cha vastupaya cha, so like that. And then he's in the Kigum Shilaya cha Kshayana cha Kapardine cha Pulaste. So everything is like he's saying right in front of him. But then, by the time you progress to, after the prayers in 10th anuvakkam, where you pray for moksha, in terms of that, in terms of that mantra, after we describe Lord Shiva being in the sky, being on the earth, being in the clouds, in the rain, describing, and then we, with the Trayambaka mantra, we pray for liberation, because the liberation that we prayed for is not given to us. We prayed for liberation right away in Anuvakka 1, in Rit number 3, we prayed for liberation. That was not given. But after chanting all these names, all these 300 names, and praying to him, and Lord Shiva is pleased and condescended to give us that liberation. And in Chamakam right away, you are identifying yourself with oneness with Lord Shiva, oneness with everything. Trayambakam ijamahe sugandhim pushtu dharam urvarkam udnad mutyor mukshiyam mamrata. Namo rudrebhyo ye pratuvyaye antarikshaye divye samanham vata varshamisavastebhyo dasa prache dasa dakshina sapratiche dasodhichet dasodvastebhyo namaste namaddayanti teyam dushmo yachan hodvaishtitam bhojam vedadami. So there, the Rishi is saying Rudra in everything. Namo rudrebhyo ye pratuvyaye antarikshaye. Prithvi, O Lord Rudra, who is in charge of Prithvi, who is in the earth in charge of the food. I worship you, Lord Rudra, who is in the antariksha, in the form of the air, vata, and then who is in the divyam, who is in the skies, who is up on the clouds in the form of rain and water. Varshamisavastebhyo. I worship you. Where are you not? Therefore, I worship you in all the 10 directions. Dasa prachir, dasa dakshina. Dasa prachir means that I worship you with all my 10 fingers. 10 fingers. I worship you in the east. Dasa dakshina. I worship you in the south. Dasodhichir, udichir. I worship you in the north. Dasa prachir, dasodhichir, dasodvastebhyo namaste. I worship you in the south. Dasa dakshina, dasa pratichir, dasodhikshir. So I worship you in the south, north, east, west, up and down. Where are you not? So I can't pinpoint you where you are not. So you are everywhere. So simply I worship you all around with my 10 fingers. And then right away, after recognizing Lord Rudra, then the Rishi says, this is me, that is me, everything is me. So that flow of thought we have to understand in the entire Rudram here. So from that is why I have this Chava Anti O Namaha. So you will see this from that 9th Yajus onwards in Anuvakkam 3. So they are all now, Rudra is not one person here after this 9th Yajus or 9th verse in Anuvakkam 3. He has manifested in so many different Rudras, even in persons or Rudras and Devatas. So they are all addressed in these verses after 9. So these Rudras, and they follow, they move about in the form of gods, asuras and men, and they are not different from Rudra. Since they are numerous, they are addressed in plural. Okay, so, and then coming back to this, there is significance. Remember I said that this, if you add this up, which is what I did because I had a lot of time, and so I could spend time on counting these, and when I counted, you would be amazed that, I'll go to that slide right away, you would be amazed what I came up with. This is what I came up with. See, this third Anuvakka, we said from verse number 9, Yajus number 9, so the Antaryamitvam is described in 9 Yajus. So these are the different rest of the Anuvakkas, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9. So if you add all these Yajus, you have a total of 108 Yajus here. So the immanent creation is the inner order that permeates and sustains that ultimate reality, that ultimate Vedantic truth is given to us in 108 verses. And what is the significance of this 108? I spent a little more time. You can also Google it and find out most of it is on the internet, which is where I got most of the information, even though some of it we know already. But then I went a little further to see what else is there to that 108. And this is what I came up with. So amazing. So the first is, what is the 108 in Hinduism? In Hinduism, well, before we even go to Hinduism, let's talk about our own body. Because you have to have the body. What is the difference, what is the significance of 108? The 108 degrees of Fahrenheit is the internal temperature at which the human body's vital organs fail. I think it's so significant. So the 108 degrees, so that's where some of you are doctors out there, so you know. So that is the most important thing. That at which your history. So that's 108. So, and then in Hinduism, there are 108 Shivaganas, Mukhya Shivaganas. And then in Vaishnavism, there are 108 gopis. And then in our Japamalas, we use 108 malas, plus the one Meru that is not counted. The Meru is just to mark that you have done 108. And then in Vaishnavism, again, we call the Nutyat Divya Kshetram, which means the 108 Divya Kshetras of Lord Vishnu in and around Tamil Nadu. Just a couple of them out Tamil Nadu, because when Andhra was divided, Tirupati went over there. So the 108 Divya Kshetrams, and then of Lord Vishnu. And then when they were churning the ocean for the nectar, Amrita, you know how many people were there? It's amazing. There were 54 Devas and 54 Asuras, 108 of them. And then planets, 9 planets and 12 Rashis, 9 times 12 is how many? 108. And then this is from religion and then physiology point of view. And then in Buddhism also same thing here. 108 questions in the Lankavatara Sutra section where the Bodhisattva Mahamati asked Buddha 108 questions. And then there's 108 statements of negation. That X is not statement concerning X, something like that, all those things. A statement concerning X is not a statement concerning X, you know, that negation philosophy. And then in some schools they say there's 108 feelings. How do they come up with that number, 108 feelings? Well, you have all these 5 senses, plus they add a 6th sense there, they call it consciousness. And then these senses, there are only 3 categories, whether it's painful, pleasant, or neutral, which means it's not either pleasure or pain, but nothing. So they multiply these 3 categories of these experiences with the 6 senses, and then they multiply this again, because they could be broadly divided into 2 categories, whether the sensations are caused externally or internally. So that is number 2. And then whether they are caused by past memories, present memories, or future phobias. So all this, that is 3. So when you multiply these 6, 3, 2, and 3, you get 108. So that is Buddhism. Interesting. And then what about Vedic mathematics? Now the 108 is a number called the abundant number. What is an abundant number? Abundant number, most of you, you're into maths and science and finance, or some of you are there like Kumar's Garu. So you would know. So 108 is an abundant number. What is an abundant number? When you add the sums of those numbers that can divide this number without any remnant, means perfect division, that's proper divisors. Like 108, number 108 will divide 108 one time. So number 54 will divide 108 2 times. So number 36 will divide 108 3 times perfectly. So these are called the divisors. So if you add all these perfect proper divisors, and then you get a sum, total number. So that number, if it exceeds the original number that you're dividing, then that's called an abundant number. So the sum of these proper divisions for 108, so these are all the numbers that will divide 108 properly, which means 1 will divide 108 times, 2 will divide it 54, and so on. So like that, if you add all these numbers, that is 280. And the 280, if you further I took this a little further, and then I added these up. I came up with 2 plus 8. Here you add this up, you split this and add it up. 2 plus 8 is 10. And then you split this and add this up. You end up with 1. Finally, the number coming out of 108 and the proper divisors is number 1. Also, this number 280, which is the sum of these proper divisors, is greater than the 108 by 172, because 280 minus 108 is 172. So this is, it's abundant by, or it's in excess of 172. It's an abundant by, this is abundant number, is abundant by 172. So that 172, what is that 172? Again, you add this up, 1 plus 7 plus 2, you get what? 10. And 1 plus 2 is 1. Again. So ultimately everything boils down to that Lord Shiva, that number 1. He is the only one reality that doesn't change. Then the rest of them keeps changing. And then number 108 in mathematics parlance is also what they call a refactorable number. And also some people call it the Dow number. What is a refactorable number? Refactorable number is a number that is divisible perfectly by the count of its divisors. In other words, these are the divisors here. If you look at the first line, there are 12 divisors here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So these 12 divisors. So if you divide this number 12, if you divide 108 by this 12, and then you get another number 9. So a refractoral number, a Dow number, is an integer that is divisible, clearly, properly divisible without any remnants, is by the count of the sum of its own divisors. So that is also called a refactorable number. So you end up with, when you divide 108 by the sum of these, then you end up with number 9. And what is the significance of 9? We'll see in a while. And then 108 is also called what they call Harshad number, I think named after an Indian mathematician or something. That's an integer divisible by sum of its digits, by the sum of its own digits. So what is the sum of these digits? 1 plus 8, 9. So this is divisible by the sum of its own digits. So 8 plus 1 is 9. So 108 divided by 9 gives you 12. 1 plus 2 is 3. Now these three numbers are so significant in terms of Shiva Linga. What is number 1? Number 1 is of course Lord Shiva. So this is the Sanskrit how you represent Lord Shiva. And number 9, this is number 9. So that is Devi. This we call it Audayar in Tamil, or the base. So the entire base is the creation. The entire base is Shakti. The entire base is Divine Mother, because it's Divine Mother who acting upon that innate Maya, the Shakti which is part of Shiva. In Saiva Siddhantam, Maya is not an illusion. In Advaita Vedanta it is. But in Saiva Siddhantam, Maya is real, but then inert. So it is Shiva Shakti. Shiva operates on Maya. With his Shakti, then the Maya gets energized and the whole creation comes about. And then that's why the Shiva Lingam is represented as the entire creation. And the Shiva is the top Shiva Lingam, which means that he is the one, he is the main one. So he is the one that operates upon the Shakti, the inner Shakti, and then this whole cosmos comes about. And that is why the Shiva Lingam is so important to us, because according to Saiva Siddhantam, the pure Shiva Tattvam cannot descend beyond a certain level. So Suddhamaya, then they call it Ashuddhamaya. So the pure Shivatvam stops right up to the Shuddhamaya, which is the 5 principles. In Saiva Siddhantam, there are 36 principles as opposed to the 24 tattvas. So there are 36 tattvas in Saiva Siddhantam. So the Shakti is represented as the entire base of the Shiva Lingam. So in that entire base, then if you go, what is in that entire base? Brahma is the creator, because when the creation comes about, then you have further appointments. Brahma is appointed, Vishnu is appointed to run the show, and then Rudras are appointed to bring about the dissolution of the creation. Because when somebody has to also do the job, so it's not Shiva who destroys, it's the Rudras. So it's a misnomer to say, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. No, it is the Rudras who does the job of dissolution. So this is called the Brahma Bhagam, and the Vishnu Bhagam, and the Rudra Bhagam. So there are 3 portions in the Shiva Lingam itself. So that is number 3. So this number 9 is this entire base, that's Divine Mother, and the number 3 is the 3 three parts: Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, and then the number one is of course Lord Shiva, who manifests himself through the Shivalingam. So because we cannot comprehend the form of Lord Shiva, we can imagine him through pictures and paintings, but in order to visualize him, it's so difficult. He's so beautiful, he's so complex, he's so fearsome sometimes. So it's very difficult to completely encapture the form of Lord Shiva in our brain. Some people can, some people have that capacity to contemplate on him in his most beautiful form, but most of the people cannot. So the simple form of Shivalingam is given to us as a kindness, as an embodiment of Shiva's mercy towards us, as an embodiment of Shiva's grace towards us. That's why Vallala Ramalinga Swamigal describes him Thanipperum Karunai. There is no mercy in this entire universe that is equal and that is like that of Lord Shiva's mercy, like that of Lord Shiva's compassion. So Thanipperum Karunai. First he describes him Arutperum Jyoti, that light, that illumination, that grandeur, light grandeur, illumination grandeur, that splendor, that is grandeur, full of grace, that is grandeur, graceful light, Arutperum Jyoti. Thanipperum Karunai, the kindness and compassion that unique on its own, Thanipperum Karunai. So it's because that Thanipperum Karunai, because of that unique mercy and compassion towards our living beings, towards the human beings, that form of Shivalingam is given to us, that we can worship Lord Shiva through the most simplest form of a Murti worship or worship form. So those are the significance of these three numbers. So how you see how this 108 manifests and boils down to the entire Shivalingam itself. And even in terms of mathematics, it makes sense. And then further, and then there was this Thirumolar who lived a few thousand years ago. He also describes the Lord in terms of numbers. How does he describe him in numbers? ஒன்றவன்தானே இரண்டவன் இன்னருள் நின்றனன் மூன்றனில் நான்கு உணர்ந்தனன் ஐந்து வென்றனன் ஆறு விருந்தனன் ஏழும்பார் சென்றனன் தான் இருந்தான் உணர்ந்து எட்டே. ஒன்றவன்தானே, he is the only one. The ever-existing, eternal, transcendental, Parapara, Parashiva, Parameshwara is just only one. There is no two. There is no second to him. He is the only one. He is the ultimate one. And then he is number two in terms of Shiva and Shakti in the Dan, because he is also Shakti is in him. So in terms of that, he is two. So the two describe Shiva and Shakti, dynamic aspect of Lord Shiva, static Shiva, and then the Shakti that operates on the Maya, the inert Maya, then the creation comes about. So in terms of that, Ardhanarishwara is number two. And then he is also three, Nindranan Moondrinul. Because after that creation comes about, then you have Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, so three. And then also you have the three Shakti, Icha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti. This is after the second stage. So that is number three, Nindranan Moondrinul. And then also in terms of three gunas that play a role in creation. And in terms of three gender, that male, female, and the neutral. And then Pati, Pashu, Pasam. This is the Saiva Siddhantam. Pati, the beings, Pashu, Pati is the Lord Shiva, Pasu the beings, and the Pasam, the bondage that binds us. So in terms of all these three also, Lord Shiva is described. And then Nangu Unarndanan, Nangu Unarndan. Nangu means four. What are the four? There are four Vedas. Then you have in Saiva Siddhantam, Sariya, Kriya, Yogam, Jnanam, the four paths to attain to the feet of Lord Shiva. And then the four paths in Hinduism to attain to Lord Shiva, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And then the four avasthas, Jagra, Swapna, Shushipti, Jagra, Swapna, Shushipti, and the Turiya, the transcendental state. So those are the four avasthas. So in terms of four, he describes these numbers. And then also, and then five, he is beyond the senses, Aindu Vendranan. And then he's a Panchakritya Parayana. He also performs his 5 acts. What are the 5 acts? Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara, Tirodhana, Anugraha. Srishti, creation, Sthiti, maintenance, Samhara, resolution, Tirodhana. He also hides the reality. Even though he is real, he is everywhere. He hides it from us. And then by his Anugraha, which is the 5th function, he also helps us to realize his true nature. When you make our Sarya Kriya Yogam Jnanam, through this effort. And then he is also number 6, Ara Virindanan. He expanded himself into 6, the 6 philosophies we can say, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, I mean, what are called Shad Darshanas in Hinduism, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa and Vedanta. And then there is also in Saiva Siddhantam, there are 6 steps to realization, like Padam, Yaluttu, Mantram, Kalai, Tattvam, and Bhuvanam. And then of course then you have the 6 chakras in the human body, the 7th being the ultimate goal, that the Sahasrara chakra. And then you also have in Vedas the 6 Vedangas. So those are all number 6. That's how he expanded himself, because he is the essence of Vedas. Vedam Nanginim Meipurulavudu. That is how Thiringanan Sambandha describes him. Kadalahi Kasindu Kannirmalhi Voduvar Tammai Nanneri Kripadu Vedam Nanginim Meipurulavudu Nadan Namam Namah Shivaya. He is the essence of the Vedas. This is in Tamil. So what is in Sanskrit? Vidyasu Sruti Utkrishta Rudra Ekadashini Sruta Tatra Panchakshari. So even in the Vedas, what is most important is those 2 letters Shiva. So he is the essence of the Vedas and the Veda Angas. So that is number 6. That's how he expands himself. Because of his kindness, because of his mercy, you can reach him. He has manifested himself in all these ways. And then he is also the manifestation. He represents the 7 manifestations, the 7 lokas, Bhur Loka, Bhuva Lokam, Sur Loka, Makar Loham, Bhu Bhuva Svaham, Makaha Janaha, Tapaha Satyam. So all the 7, and then the 7 lower lokas, the Patala, Tala Suktala, Patala, Talatala, and all those talas. So there are 7 of them. We talked about it in anuvakkam too. So so here is the 7. And what is number 8? That is where he ends, his manifestation ends in his 8 forms. Ashtamurti Deva Pujanam. This is Ramana Maharshi. When they ask him, how do you worship Lord Shiva? He says you worship him in these 8 forms. Ashtamurti Deva Pujanam Kayavang Manam Karyamuttamam Pujanam Japa Chintanam Kramad Jagatayishadhi Yukta Sevanam Ashtamurti Deva Pujanam. Whatever is your Yukta Seva, whatever is your capacity, according to it, you serve the Lord. So where is the Lord? He is the Isha, he is the Lord Shiva. Jagata Ishadi, the entire creation is Lord Shiva. So but that doesn't help me. When you say entire creation, where do you find him? He says you find him in these 5 elements. Ashtamurti Brit. Is these 5 elements? Air, water, earth, fire, and Akasha. And then in the sun and moon and all the jivas, all the life that is around you, you find that is Lord Shiva in all this. So Ashtamurti Brit Deva Pujan, that's how you worship. That is why even one of the 108 names of Lord Shiva, Ashtamurtaye Namaha, Anekatmane Namaha, Anekatmane Namaha, but Anekatmane doesn't help us, so they bring it down to Ashtamurtaye Namaha. Satvikaya Namaha, Shuddha Vigrahaya Namaha, Shasvataya Namaha, Kantapa, all those things. So, but then one of the words is Ashtamurti. That is where the creation ends right there. But then when you count all these numbers that Tirumula says, that becomes 36. It's so amazing. And I just finished telling you a while ago, these are the 36 tattvas through which creation finds its fulfillment. And that is number 9. That fulfillment is Shakti. That fulfillment is this entire creation number, the base of Shiva Lingam. So this is so amazing that whether it's Vedic mathematics or modern mathematics, any mathematics ends up in Lord Shiva and Shakti and the creation. So what remains finally is number 1 and 9. So if you discard all the stages in between, this is from 1 through 8. So we take out all this, make them all 0, then it's again 108 right here. So 1 through 8, because we end up in 9, because after the creation is 9, which is the embodiment of Divine Mother Shakti. So that is the Shivalingam, the base of the Shivalingam. So that is again 108, and that is number 9, that is number 1. So ultimately it's 1 and 9. Anyway, so, and then, the pentagon, if you see the angles of the pentagon, what is the pentagon? The five corners. Nama Shivaya. And then Om Nama Shivaya, 5 corners. 108 again, the corners of this, the angle of that is 108. That's probably why Pentagon in USA was saved when the 9/11 happened. They attacked Pentagon, they tried to bring a plane down to Pentagon, we were saved because Lord Shiva was there. Thank God. Anyway, again, now coming back a little astronomy and the mystery of 108, this is really amazing. This also you can find. and the accuracy is so good. Now, the diameter of the sun is 8,64,576 miles. 8,64,570. If you multiply that 108 by 108, you get 93.3 million miles. So what is the actual distance? Is 93 million miles. So what is the error here? 0.3%. So 108. Again, coming back to the actual distance between Earth and Moon is 238,900 miles. Okay. So the diameter of the Moon is 2,159 miles. So if you multiply this 108, what you get? The number you get is 233,172, which is an error margin of error 2.3%, which is acceptable in statistics. Now, the diameter of the Sun is 864,576 miles. And then, if you multiply the diameter of the Earth, which is 7,917 by 108, this is what you get, 855,036. Is everybody okay there? I'm hearing some static. Okay. So when you multiply the diameter of the Earth by 108, what you get? The diameter of the Sun, with the margin of error is 1.1%. So there again, in terms of astronomy, the significance of 108. And then again, coming to modern times, I'm spending a little time, but we'll go through it. So modern times, in Ayurveda, and then there is another shastram called Marmadi Shastram, which is called Kalaripu, it's a martial arts in South India. There are 108 pressure points in the body where consciousness and flesh intersect to give life to the living being. So there are 108 pressure points, and then in a modern, a deck of cards has 108. And then, in baseball, I just found that out yesterday, Google here, in Wikipedia. So they say that the baseball has 108 stitches in it. And then what happened this year is a miracle. The Chicago Cubs won the World Series for the first time in 108 years. And how they won it? The way they won, the win came in the 10th innings with 8 runs. So 108. 10th innings, 8 runs. And then the final thing is, in India, what the emergency number is not 911. The emergency number in India is 108. And then our real emergency number is right here. So Markandeya, our real emergency number is Lord Shiva. So when Markandeya was tormented by Yama, he called 911. He called 108. He called 108 means he called Lord Shiva. And there he came to the rescue right away. So he is our real 108. He is a real emergency. That's the one you should call. Because Patanjali says, Heyam Dukkam Anagatam. You don't wait until the emergency really happens. You really have to keep calling him all the time. So then he will be there. So that's what Markandeya did. He was calling him all the time. So he was ever present with him. He just didn't call him in times of when he was in distress only. Like Kabir says, Sukame Sumirana Sabakare, Dukkame Karena Koi. Jo sukame sumirane kare dukkha khahe kare hoi. Because everybody will think of the God in terms of distress. We have few devotees who come to the temple when you have problems in their life. They just show up. Then we figure out, there is some issues going on. When the problem is resolved, we don't see them for a while, for a couple of months, 3 months, 4 months. And we see them again. So anyway. So, sukame sumirana koi. Not many people worship the God in terms of happiness. Dukkame sumirane sab kare. Everybody calls upon the Lord in terms of distress. Sukame kare na koi. Jo sukame sumirane kare. If you worship the Lord in times of good times, in pleasant times, in happy times, dukkha kahe kare hoi. Where you won't get the suffering. You won't even get the suffering. So that is why Patanjali says, Heyam dukkam anagatam. Prevent the suffering that is not even anagatam, that is not even aroused, that is not even come yet. So he is our permanent 108 here. So like I said, we went through this before. There's a few more. This is a geometrical version. Again, this is a 5-point triangle. So Nama Shivaya, and then pentagon here, Nama Shivaya, and then all these angles you see there are 108, 108, 108. Anyway, so and this is his Antaryamitvam, Shiva's Antaryamitvam, his immanence in creation is described in 108 Yajus in Sattarudriyam. So that's why I had to give you all this little tour. Okay. Now let me see where we are in terms of time. Almost an hour. Okay. Almost an hour. Okay. Should we continue or next week?
Continue.
Anybody else? Kumar Garu?
Yeah. Continue.
Okay. So this is our first verse in Anuvakkam 3. Yeah. So it's such a beauty that how this even begins, even though they describe so many different kinds of crime and criminals, the very first word they start this Anuvakkam with is Sahamanaya. Here still in third person. So like I said, until there is number 9, there is no second person yet. So Namas Sahamanaya. Sahamanaya means one who tolerates. जो सहन करता है वो सहमान है. जो वो जिसके पास धन है वो धनवान है. और so जिसके पास मति है वो मतिवान. So Sahaman. So one who can tolerate, one who puts up with all your problems, one who puts up with all your craziness is called Sahaman. So that's how Lord Shiva is described. Then they go tell you what are the kinds that he's putting up with. So that is how it's described. That even this most worst kind of criminals that are described in this Anuvaka, even the filtered criminals, even the most heartless criminal, if they take the name of Lord Shiva, then he tolerates them. Not only he tolerates them, then he graces them, he helps them to progress spiritually also, to help them to reach him. So that is why it's called Sahamana. Namas Sahamanaya Nivyadina Abhyadini Nam Patahe Namaha. So Nivyadina Abhyadini Nam Patahe. Nivyadina means Ayuda Nivyadina. One who afflicts, hurt, pierces with an arrow, being either as a devata or as a human being. So the form of devata, there are so many different rudras that are described who can cause affliction. The devata in the form, the rudra in the form of a water can cause affliction in terms of floods. The rudra in terms of food can convert that into an arrow. The Rudra in charge of air can convert that into an arrow. The Rudra in charge of water can convert that into an arrow. That is why in Anuvakkam number 10 you ultimately see this praise. Namo Rudrebhyo ye pruthivyam ye antarikshe ye divye shaman varto varsham isavastebhya. Vato isavastebhya. Vato isava means arrow. He turns the wind or the air into arrow. Vato isavastebhya, varsham isavastebhya. And then he turns varsha, the water, rain, into an arrow. And then he can also turn food into an arrow by either giving too much of it or giving food poison or no food at all. Annam isavastebhya. That's why when you do havan, you split all this. Namo Rudrebhyo ye prativyam yesham annam isavastebhya. Annamishavastebhyo dasa prachedasa dakshinasa pratichedasa dhichedasa vastebhyo namaste namadayam dushmo yachanadvaishchitam bhojam vedadami morudrebhyo antarikshe sam vato ishavastebhyo. Antariksham is vato ishavastebhyo. So there's all these rudras, so he can hurt us in terms of all this different rudras. So that is Nivyadina Avyadininam Pataye. So either he can hurt in a particular place, particular people, or he can cause all-round affliction like an earthquake or tsunami, or he can also hurt a particular family or a particular person. So that is what this means. And then Skanda Deva Bhashya says that tolerate the guilt of the good ones and strike the wicked ones. That is the meaning he gives for Sahamanaya. But I would take it as he tolerates the bad ones also. They start praying to him. Like a child does something that you don't like to do, but then when it comes and it's, oh, mommy, oh, daddy, and then gives you a hug, that sorry, I did this, then you kind of melt down. So same way with Lord Shiva. Because we also have little aspect of the divinity in us, the aspects of the quality. So he has them in infinite form, and we have them to a very minor extent. Okay. So Sahamanaya Nivyadina Avyadini Nampataye Namaha. Nama Kakubaya Nishangine Stena Nampataye Nama. Kakuba, Vittaba, like Kakuba, he is the prominent among gods. Because of whom all the devatas shine. So it is because of his divinity, everything else is divine. Because of his devatvam, everybody else is a deva. So, like we say this mantra from Upanishad, Tvameva Bhantam Anubhati Sarvam. Because of your light, Tvameva Bhantam Anubhati Sarvam. Everything here is lit because of your light. Everything else shines because of you. Everything else, every other devata is a devata because of you. And the other meaning for Kakubaya is seated on a bull, with the hump of the bull. One who is seated on the hump of the bull or by the hump of the bull is also known as Kakubaya. So, and then bull again, like we saw in our last second Anuvaka, bull represents Dharma. So he is seated on Dharma because he is the dispenser of justice. He's dispenser of justice. He is an impartial judge who dispenses justice according to your karma phala. And then he is also an expert with sword, Nishangine. You would see this word Nishangin come a few times in Anuvaka 3, because sword is also used to chastise and also commit crime. So Nishangine, an expert with the sword to chastise karma phaladata. Stenanam patiye. So these are the undercover thieves. Stenana. Stenana means these are the thieves who do steal undercover. So, and also he is Stenanampati. Also in terms of mystically, you can say he is the greatest thief of all of the thieves. Why? Because ultimately he steals everything away from us. Everything is gone. So when we end up in samsana, everything is stolen. Everything is gone. Even your body is stolen from you. So in samsana, and that's why Shiva comes with you all the way up to samsana. He steals everything from you, and then he guides your soul. So in that sense, he's the greatest stealer. And then also he is a stealer in other sense, that he steals your heart. Some of you will fall in love with Lord Shiva. He's stolen your heart already. So that way he is a good thief. So he is a thief who snatches everything away from you for doing good to you, because sometimes you think that he's hurting us so badly to an extent that we can't even bear it. But then that's the way that he drags us towards him. So that's the way he brings us closer to him. But sometimes when we go wayward, like the cowherd that uses a little stick to beat the cow or the goat, whatever. So that's how what Shiva does. He gives a little shock treatment. We saw in Anuvakkam 2 what the shock treatment was. So that is why, and then he steals our heart. He steals our heart, he steals our possession, he steals our own body in the end. So that way he is also Stenanampati. And then Nishangina, again the word sword is here. Nishangina Isudimate Taskaranampati. Isudimate is the bearer of, again, Ishu is the bearer of the quoits and then the arrows, and then the sword. He is the wielder of the sword, one who is firmly attached to the devotees. In Skanda Bhashyam, Nishangina also has a meaning of one who is attached to the devotees, because in the previous verse, if you take the meaning, he is the stealer of your heart, then he's also, once he steals your heart, he is attached to you. So that is another meaning of Nishangina here. Yesudimate, he has excellent arrows, excellent quiver. And then Taskaranampataye. And then these are the second category of robbers who rob openly, like the Dakus, the Chambal Valley dacoits, who just ride a horse. They don't, they just openly do it. And then sometimes you did the crimes committed in public. So those kind of criminals. He is a lot of them also. And then Namo Vanchate Parivanchate Stahyunam Patehe Namaha. Vanchate means these are people, in Tamil we call it Enada Vanjana Seru. Which means, and then one of the avayas says, Vanjanegal Sevaroda Inanga Venda. Vanchana means these are people who are known to you, that you hardly suspect they will do anything to you. So these are your co-workers and these are your friends, sometimes the so-called friends that have the beautiful smile on their face, the sweet talk in their mouth, but then underneath they are scheming something, they hurt you, and because of their selfish motives in so many different ways. We have seen it all the time in our lives. Every one of you have gone through that. You have seen people like that. That is why, I like this old Hindi song. दिल को देखो चेहरा न देखो चेहरे उन्हें लाखों को लूटा दिल सच्चा और चेहरा झूठा दिल सच्चा और चेहरा झूठा. So that's what Rudram is talking about here, that these are the chehra, jhuta chehra, these people who be pretending like your friends, who acquaintances, they stealthily and sneakily do harm to you. And then vanchate means they steal occasionally, parivanchate means they systematically, they routinely commit these crimes until one fine morning you find out that this is what they have been doing all along. So, stayunam pataye, pretending to be acquaintance. And then, now, if you apply this word to Lord Shiva, it applies. How does it apply? Because one of his panchakatya is tirodhana. He hides himself from you. So like these people who hide the real motives from you and then keep stealing. So he hide himself from you with his tirodhana bhava. That is one of the panchakatyas, one of the 5 functions to hide himself. He doesn't reveal himself just easily, oh come on, I'm here. No. So purposely hide himself, make you seek him. But then once you seek him, then he reveals himself. He reveals himself and then he steals your heart. So, and then he does this by always being in you, that you don't even recognize that he was in you, but he was with you all the time. So being in you, like these people, like these sneaky people, they were with you all the time, but you didn't recognize their intentions to steal. So you didn't recognize Lord Shiva's intentions to steal your heart, but he steals your heart by being in you in a hidden way. So that is also another way that mystically that I added here, that you can interpret this verse. Vanchate parivanchate stayunam pataye namaha. Namo nicherave paricharaya aranyanam pataye namaha. Nicherave means people who are wandering around. The people who, there are thieves who steal and stay in one place and keep stealing slowly without you knowing it, keep swindling. And then in the forest also there are people who stay in one particular area or one particular, like Chambal Valley, they stay in Chambal Valley and keep robbing people. But there are also these wandering people, you hear them all the time, like this group that about a few months ago, there is wandering group that committed all these heinous crimes, like robbery, rape and all that. These groups keeps wandering, they stop cars, they throw stones at the cars on highway, then you stop to look what is, you hear the sound, you stop your car. Then all of a sudden they appear in front in group and then drag you, do all this nonsense. So these people don't stay in one place, so they move around. So these are nicherave paricharaya aranyana. So whether they wander in the forest or wander among the cities, so they are all these kind of thieves. Nicherave paricharaya aranyana patehe, the forest thieves who rob the wealth of the travelers and constantly move around. And Valmiki was one of them. So Valmiki was one of them. So when Narada was Valmiki, that's what Valmiki was doing. He was wandering in forests and stealing. And then giving into voice, maintaining his family, his aged parents and his wife and children. So one day Narada walks in there and then Valmiki tries to rob him. And then Narada says, why are you doing this? He says, why can't I do it? Then Valmiki asks him, repeats him back. He asks me, why are I doing this? Why cannot I do this? You tell me, why can't I do this? Then he says, well, the reason you cannot do this, or should not do this, is because this is Papa. He says, well, it's not my Papa, because everybody else, my family, my wife, my parents are sharing in my loot. So it is their Papa, it's not my Papa, because they are the ones I'm giving it to. Then Narada says, oh, that's what you think. Go and find out. You go and ask your wife, go and ask your parents, go and ask your children, whether they're going to take a little portion of your Papa, then come back. And Valmiki goes there and asks his wife, you're going to, of course, take share of the bad karma that I'm doing, right? She says, no way. He says, why should I? It's your duty to provide for us. So you do it, but that is your duty. So that you're responsible for what you're doing. Whether do it good way or bad way, that's your responsibility. Why should I take part in it? And then the same answer he gets from his parents. Oh, we are so old, we got our own karmas to deal with. Why would we take yours? And then the same thing from the children. Oh, we got a life to live, something like that. So Valmiki realizes, dawns on him. And finally comes to Narada. And then Narada gives him the Ram Nam. Then he can't even chant it because he is so, He was so lost in this forest, so he can't even chant the Ram Nam properly. Then he says, "Can you say Mara?" He says, "Yeah, I can chant Mara." So okay, chant Mara, 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 Mara. Because when in dacoity, Marpeet karo, Mara, wo mar gaya. So he says, "Can you say Mara?" "Oh, Mara." "Hanji, theek hai, Mara." So he says, "Mara, Mara, 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 Mara." So that Mara became Ram, and the dacoit became a saint. So Aranyanampati. Again, Namastrikavibhyo jigagam sadhya mushnatam patehe namaham. Another kind of category of thieves, mushnata. These are the people who steal crops and grinds in the wealth. And then these jigagam sadhyo, these are who are the merciless killers. So jigagam sadhyo, these are the merciless killers, srikavibhyo, and then who has their armory on them. And the srika is also known for vajraitam, so it's a good armor. And also srikavibhya means the god of armories. So many different meanings. So putting an armor, they kill mercilessly people, and then they steal crops, grinds, and the wealth. And they're moving along real fast. Namo simadhyo naktancharadhya prakhantanha pate. Simadhyo is again swordsmen, wielder of drawn swords, but these are all nocturnal. Now we are talking about mostly nocturnal people who move around in the nights. So that's why it's naktancharadhya. The nocturnal came from the word naktancharadhya, naktam. So naktancharadhya, nocturnal people. Prakrantanam pataye, who kill and carry, prakrantanam, who kill and carry away wealth at night. So these are those category of thieves. And who else is? Kulunchanam pataye. Kulunchana means these are the land grabbers. The land grabbers also kidnap people like this Veerappan used to do. So these are the people who kidnap Kulunchanam pataye. And Vushni Shine, they have the turbans. Like most of the dacoits you would see in the movie Sholay, they all have these turbans. And then the Chambal Valley also used to have all these turbans. So that's why Rudra Rishi knows about all these people long time ago. Vushni Shine Giricharaya Kulunchanam pataye. One who wears the turban, Giricharaya, wanders about in the mountains, in the valleys, and then land grabbers. So those kind of dacoits, robbers are described here. Now, from here, there is a sudden change in the tone, in the trend of Rudram. So like we said in 9, this is where for the first time you see this word, O Namaha, which means now you are seeing Lord Rudra in front of you in all these people, like all these gypsies who wander around carrying bow and arrow. You see, oh my God, oh Lord Rudra, I see you in this hunter. I see you in this gypsy with a bow and arrow. My namaskarams to you. Oh Namaha, Nama Ishumadhyo then Vavipicha. I see you in this man carrying a bow and arrow. Oh my God, namaskarams to you. Oh Namaha, Chavaha. When you do Kramapatam and Ganapatam, this is what the word will be. This would be split. So you have Padapatam, then you have Kramapatam, then you have Ganapatam. So in Kramapatam, this is Padapatam, which means actually as it is. So this will be split this. So dan bhavibhya chavaha. That's how you say it. Dan bhavibhya iti dan bhavibhya chavaha means unto you my namaskar, which means now you are talking about second person. Now you are in front of, you are seeing Rudra manifested in all these beings. The person who has a bow and an arrow, then the person who has strung the bow and set the arrow in it, then the person who releases the arrow so perfectly that it goes and hits the targets. But the sequence of this shooting a bow, shooting an arrow is described in the next 3-4 verses. The sequence of first you pick up the bow, then you string the bow, then you set the arrow, then you stretch it, then you aim it, then you release it. So the devotee is seeing Rudra in all these people who is doing this sequence. So, and also in a way, he's seeing Rudra himself in all these people because, oh my God, now I see you, Lord Rudra, you are aiming this arrow at that person because of his karma. Oh my God, you are aiming it at me. I see that it is coming. Some people have the premonition that some trouble is going to come. So this, oh my Lord, I see you setting up your arrows. My namaskarams to you. Om Namaha. I worship you. Please forgive me. Whatever I did, bear with me. I won't do it again. So things like that, like your child does it. I don't think the children in America do it anymore. In India, we used to do it. Anyway, so Now, this is where now the second part, the progress here, a definite progress. So Ramana Maharshi also says, Bheda Bhavanat Sohamityaso Bhavana Bita Bhavani Mata. This is in his Upadeshasaram. In Upadeshasaram, you got pretty much everything. Bheda Bhavanat Sohamityaso. He is talking about a progress from the second level to the third level. Bheda Bhavanat, from the stage of dichotomy, that observer and the observed, you and me, the seen and the seer, the God and the devotee. Veda Bhavanat Soham Ityasau. Soham, I am He. That unity consciousness, that oneness with Him. Bhavana Abhida, that dichotomyless. Abhida Bhavana means that differenceless, that oneness, that duality, that non-duality. Abhida means non-duality, is held to be in high esteem. Pavani Mata. Pavani Mata means that is the holy opinion, high esteemed opinion, is that Advaita, state of Advaita, that oneness is better than that state of dichotomy, the state of Advaita. So, the Sahamana, where we started, accepts you and makes you one with him if one goes to him, like he did for Kannappa Nayanar. Kannappa Nayanar, that's what he did. You all know the story. The reason he is known as that is called Sarupya Mukti. You have Sayujya Mukti and then Sarupya Mukti. That oneness was what Kannappa Nayanar attained. Kannappa Nayanar is called Kannappa. Kann means I. Kannappa Nayanar is not called Kannappa Nayanar because he gave his eye. Kannappa Nayanar is called Kannappa Nayanar because not only he got his eyes back, not only he gave his eyes, because Shiva also gave him a third eye, his Trinetra. So that is what he calls Sarupya Mukti. So he made him like himself. So his form, Sarupyam. So that is what he would do. Lord Shiva would make Sahamana. That Sahamana where we started this anuvakkam with, that Sahamana, one who validates and accepts if one goes to him, all your sins are forgiven. He kind of validates him. My mother used to say, whenever I say, this guy is pretty much it was mostly my nephews and nieces. He says, why do they do all this? I keep them to asking, do this. It is there for one good. And all that she would say is, their grahas are not good. The planets are not good. It is not their fault. It is their mind. The planets make them think like what they think. So that is the mother's attitude. The mother never blames the child for whatever it does. Mother always accepts the child and justifies what it does. And then that is what Lord Shiva does even to the criminals. And even though Kannappa Nayanar was a hunter, he hunted all these animals and did that. And finally he accepted him. And even though Kannappa Nayanar offered the meat and the worst form of worship that he can do, and he brings water in his mouth and throws it upon Lord and then tastes the meat before he offering it to him. All these things that are sacrilegious in traditional religions, he did all that. But then because he was Sahamana, because of Kannappa's love for him, so Kannappa went to him with all that love. So he accepted him and made him his own. So that is what he's called Kannappa, because he got the third eye. So whoever we see, all these Rudraganas in the form of the manifestation in the world, unto all of them, our namaskara. Sisumad Jyodhan Bhavibhyacha O Namaha. From now onwards, you would see this O Namaha in all the rest of the verses. Namatan Bhanebhya Pridhanebhya. One who strings the bow. Like I said, these are the sequence of setting the bow. One who strings the bow, one who fits the arrows in them. So he strings it, now he sets the arrow. First we saw the one who has a bow and an arrow. Now he strings it and he sets the arrow. Now here he pulls the strings and he let the arrows fly. Pull the strings. That is Robin Hood here. Nama Ayachadya Vishajadya. Ayachadya means one who pulls it. Vishajadya will let the arrows fly. So having fixed the best arrows to the bow, he draws the string and discharges them. And then Namospadya, Namasyadya, Vidyadya, Syadya, Vidyadya means now the released arrow hits the target perfectly and then it achieves its goal. It means it hits the target and kills the target. Vidyadya. So that is such a perfect archer is Lord Shiva. So nobody can escape his justice. Nobody, if he once he sets his once he strings his bow and sets the arrow, nobody can escape it. That is why entire Rudram, right from Anuvakkam 1, he says, please put your bows down. Please put your arrows up. Please tip the blunts of your arrows, because I know that arrow. You are such a marksman. You are such a perfect marksman. Your arrow will hit me. So please blunt the edges of your arrows. And then finally we pray to him by the time we come to Anuvaka 10, throw your arrows away. So that is why in Anuvaka 3, this section describes that nobody can escape. Once this bowsman, once this marksman picks up his bow, strings his bow, sets the arrow in it, aims it, and then let it go, it's going to find its target. That's why all the prayers you see in Rudram is, please put your bow away, please blunt the tips of your arrows, please untie the bow. Not only untie the bow, please put the strings away. So sometimes, that is why we say in Anuvakkam 1, untie the strings from both ends of the bow, not only from one end, because if the one end is strung, you can still find the string and tie it up real quick. But if you untie from both ends, sometimes the chances you won't find the string, only the bow. Without the string, nothing can be done. So that's how the prayers are. So because the devotee knows, like the Rishi says here, he's a perfect marksman. So, and then again the tone changes here, new line of thought. And then here we see the Rishis seeing Lord Rudra in not only in all these simple folks, the hunters, the hunters and the hunted, then the criminals, not only in them, but now he's seeing them in very ordinary people who are seated, people who are reclining, and people who are sleeping, people who are, so in all these people, asinebhya shayanebhyascha. See, not everybody is seated. So he's in all of them. Not everybody is reclining. Some are reclining, some are seated, some are standing, some are walking, some are running. So all these people are described. So in other words, that the Rishi is seeing Lord Rudra in every activity, in every form of activity, in every form of human being. So, asinebhya shayanebhyascha means were seated and were reclining. Squat here. And then, in judges and interviewers, these are the people, and big bosses. These are the people who sit down and you go in front of them, you're scared. So these are seated and you are the one who's standing. And then Dakshinamurti is always seated. So that is also Lord Shiva. And then, so asinebhya sapadhya jagradhyacha. Sapadhya means who are asleep, like here at the bottom. And the jagradhyacha, like Adi Shankara was always awake. Jagradhyacha, because he offers everything. Whether I am awake or sleepy or walking, everything is offered to you as my puja. Sapadhya jagradhyacha. Because when we are awake here, people in India are sleeping. And when people in India are sleeping, we are awake here. And then some parts of the world are awake, some parts of the world are asleep. So he is in all of these. So, and the problem is, if you sleep continuously and do not wake up, problem. So, I do not mean the physical sleep. I mean your sleep, your ignorance. So if you keep sleeping and don't wake up, problem. So wake up, and the wake up call will come. Otherwise, the wake up call will come, but it will be too late. So, and keep the Om Namah Shivaya alarm all the time by you to make you up on time. So Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Sivataraya Cha, Om Ham 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 Shivaya Naha. These must be these are your alarms. This must be your snoozing alarms. Even if you turn it off, it should keep ringing back again to wake you up. Because a lot of times we turn the alarm off and go back to sleep. Don't do that. So keep awake. So, who is in the things that are stable and things that are moving. So what are the things that are stable? So not only Om Namaha. So not only now the Rishi is seeing him in all the human beings, but he's also seeing him in the nature. Tishtadhya, the mountains like Mount Kailasha, you are there. In every mountain he is there. And then Davadhyascha, in the Stavara Jangamam, in Vedantic parlance, we call the Stavara Jangama. Stavaras are the ones that are stable. Mountains and trees. Jangamas are the ones that are moving, like the rivers and like the rivers and the moving oceans, the tsunamis and the tigers and elephants, rivers and the wind, everything. So that is Davadhyascha. So now the Rishi is seeing him in all this. O Namaha. So this is again a second person, because you're seeing the mountain, oh you are Lord Shiva. You're seeing the tree, oh you are Lord Shiva. He's not yet one with them, but he's seeing it. He's still seeing Lord Shiva. He's seeing God in everything. So, and then Namah Sabhabhya Sabhabhati. This picture of Chhatrapati Shivaji, Sabhabhya. So he's also in the Sabha, Sabhabhya. He is the Sabha, and he's also the leader of the Sabha, Sabhabhati. Another name for Lord Shiva is Sabhapati. As he is in Chidambaram, he is called Sabhapati because he holds assembly of this entire cosmos. And then he is seated in Chidambaram. Being seated in Chidambaram, he holds the assembly of all the devas and devatas and assigns duties to them. That is the roll call he conducts every day in Chidambaram. On the assembly of the devatas. That's why he's called Sabhapati. And he says, today you do this, today you do this. And one day for them is not like one day for us. That is for eons for them. So when he holds assembly, Shiva, when he creates, he says, you are appointed as Brahma, you are appointed as CEO, or you are appointed as maintainer, Vishnu, or you are appointed as this. You are appointed as Rudra for in charge of the wind. You are a Rudra for, you are this Rudra, you are in charge of the food, you are in charge of Pushti, you are in charge of rain. So all this he does. So being the Sabhapati, but he's also in the Sabha because it is he who became every one of this. So Sabhabhya, Sabhapatibhyascha. And then he is also Asvebhya Svabhatibhyascha Ho Namaham. He is also he is also the horse and also the one who owns the horse. He is a lot of one who rides the horse. So Shiva in Tiruvalayadal Puranam in Madurai, Shiva came as a horseman, and that's a beautiful story. Manika Vasahar will pick up some time where Shiva came as a horseman, horse trader in front of the king, and then handed over all those horses to him. That's a beautiful story. Because of what time, we will do it some other time. And then Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you very much, and you all have a wonderful weekend. And question time.